At the crux of the theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of files and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind?
Is that supposed to be a bad thing?
I wanna be with you everywhere.
Epstein got his money from two Jewish billionaires, Lex Wessner and Leon Black, and a little bit of money from the Jewish banking dynasty, the Rothschilds in Europe.
Welcome, new Templars. I'm Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka A145, the Map Maker. We got so much to cover. I think we may have more news to cover in this video than any video previously. There has been a lot happening the past few weeks. I even got a little bit behind. This video, notes for this video started around the time of the Super Bowl, which I don't even think we need to cover that anymore because so much else has gone down, including more Epstein file releases, more revelations about who Epstein worked for, which is, I think, aside from the disgusting things that he was doing, this all boils down to who was he working for? That's the whole point of what we look into here as conspiracy theorists and, with the traitors and alliances concepts that I talk about in my artworks. Who he works for is really like what we need to go to here. Who was paying him? And evidence points to the Rothschilds, direct evidence, direct admissions. So we have so much more to cover, including Prince Andrew being arrested, the executive order on glyphosate, which is very controversial. I would say the MAGA base is quite divided right now. It was a little bit of a bumpy week last week for MAGA, with what seemed like possibly a few setbacks. And so we have the State of the Union tonight. So I wanted to get sort of up to speed with everything that's happened thus far, and then maybe see where Trump takes it with the State of the Union. I know a lot of us kind of get excited for that, but then typically the State of the Union is pretty much normie-dumb. I heard he's invited Erica Kirk to be like a special guest there, and so prepare for normies to norm. Of course, there will be hidden comms, but I never expect anything too earth-shaking at the State of the Union, like something like announcing aliens, which is he actually did put on Twitter last week. So that's another point here. Trump on 2/19 saying he's directing the Pentagon to declassify files on aliens and ETs. So that's pretty much like a one-off story. With a lot of other stuff last week, the Trump administration backing down on their food dye ban. Changing this from an outright ban to sort of like a relabeling, which has a lot of the Maha community upset. So Maha is upset over two items right now, the glyphosate and the back down on food dyes. DOJ hanging a banner of Trump on the exterior of their building with the big word justice, Department of Justice, Make America Safe Again. And SCOTUS striking down Trump's tariffs in a 6-3 decision, followed by Trump the very next day announcing a global 10% tariff under slightly different rules and regulations. And then the following day raising that to 15%. And so the tariff wars continue. But a huge controversy erupted on Twitter, and I'm not sure how far this has extended. I don't think the administration has addressed it yet, but a huge controversy exploded on Twitter after the tariff decision regarding Howard Lutnick's firm, Cantor Fitzgerald. Howard Lutnick being the Secretary of Commerce, I believe. And his company is now run by his sons, and apparently that firm bought up the rights to the U.S. tariff refunds at massive discounts. So essentially, the person who helped Trump make the tariff plan in the first place has his son's company massively profiting on the Supreme Court decision of, the initial tariff plan essentially failing and refunds having to be paid. Now, I'm not completely clear like how this works, but, apparently through some kind of like Babylonian money magic, they're getting a massive profit from these tariff refunds. So seems like that's even like beyond insider trading, I would say, but it's not looking good. And I first made a video about Howard Lutnick around this time, probably last year, when he was first appointed the Commerce Secretary, just, talking about his history as a 9/11 Grim Reaper dodger and the fact that he's a Jewish banker. And throughout the whole year, we've seen pictures of him behind Trump, sort of like looking like he's whispering in his ear, saying, keep it in line. So a lot of those suspicions about him seem to be really coming to a head. A lot of people demanding his being fired from the administration. So I doubt that Trump will address Howard Lutnick in his State of the Union speech tonight, but and I'm not sure how long Twitter is going to be aggravated about it, but it's definitely concerning. But however, even though the U.S. Supreme Court decision was a setback, the administration had backup plans that went into effect immediately. And so we're seeing less targeted tariffs and more of like a global tariff. Now things picked up again on the kinetic front last Sunday, 2/22, with the CJNG cartel making a major attack across Mexico, specifically in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, after their leader El Mencho was killed. So this is kind of still breaking. Nobody knows how long the violence is going to last. I think a lot of truther channels are maybe like exaggerating this a little bit. I'm not sure how widespread and how bad the violence really is. Like intuitively, when I first saw it, it's kind of seemed, I mean, I hate to say staged, but like what does burning a car in the middle of the road really do? Are they just like making a scene, making it look dramatic, when how dramatic is it really? Like, I don't think any tourists have been taken hostage yet. It's obviously a concern. Meanwhile, like I even have friends at EDC Mexico, which is actually in Mexico City, who, to them, this is not even happening. So it's like the people in certain towns, it's pretty apparent, but it's not like widespread across the entire state or country of Mexico. On the same day, there was a Trump assassination attempt at Mar-a-Lago, which there's so much going on that this kind of thing just kind of gets glossed over now. But I mean, at the end of the day, that is fairly significant. Someone trying to come into Mar-a-Lago with weapons and possibly explosives to kill our president is just kind of laissez-faire now. But it's something to be concerned about. He even made a comment about it in a speech that, people are gunning for him. He might not last too much longer, which is concerning. Well, and then we also have the U.S. Navy amassing near Iran with an anticipated strike, assumably on Iran. Now, I've had wild fantasies that the strike may actually be on Israel, but I wouldn't put too much money on that. At the same time, news was breaking yesterday that the U.S. aircraft carrier Ford, I think, one of the big ones, is having sewage problems and morale problems. Now, who knows? It's hard to say if this is true, if this is deep state propaganda coming out. But apparently, like, there's a 45-minute wait to go to the bathroom on the aircraft carrier, and morale is way down because troops don't want to fight yet another war for Israel. And their deployment has been extended twice now. So they've been away from home and from family for quite a long time, considering that we're not actually at war. So all that and more in this video. Now, some of those points we don't have too much more to cover on than what was already said, but we're going to dig in a lot deeper to a few of those and really get to the bottom of this and show some evidence. So let's start the slideshow. First with Epstein. I just want to say to everyone surprised about what's in the Epstein files, what's coming out about Epstein, all of this information came out during Pizzagate way back in 2016 from the Anthony Weiner laptop and actually mainly from the John Podesta emails that were leaked by WikiLeaks that were obtained through Seth Rich, who got murdered. So when society ignores the truth the first time it comes out and believes the media saying baseless conspiracies repeatedly, we are doomed to repeat the lesson. And that seems to be what's happening right now with Epstein. And even with these revelations about who Epstein works for, we go back to the original QWeb way at the top here, instead of just saying the Jews, as some people like to insult the QWeb of being overly complex and not just saying the Jews. Well, looky right here, we have literally the fourth more, like if you count from the top down, most important going down. It's also a timeline, but I arranged this in a specific way. Rothschilds right here. Rothschild Bank, guardians of the papal treasure since 1822. So it's like, we've been on this. We've been trying to tell people. I mean, the only people above the Rothschilds here is the Jesuits, Switzerland, and the Vatican, which I do still believe those are above the Rothschilds. Now, there's some debate there. You know, do the Rothschilds control the Vatican? Does the Vatican control the Rothschilds? If I had to bet, I would say the Vatican controls the Rothschilds. And by the Vatican, I mean the black nobility families that control the Vatican. So we've been on this, but it is vindication to see evidence in the actual Epstein files. And so I really like this meme I found here. I didn't create this, but of Epstein taking off his mask. And, you know, first it's the CIA running honeypot blackmail operations to gain blackmail on important individuals, politicians, university professors, to control society that way. You take off the CIA mask and it's Mossad underneath, or maybe just Israel. And then you take off the Israel mask and, oh, look who it is. It's actually the Rothschilds. Now, you may not be able to see that in the little image here, but they essentially have like a little Rothschild like family crest or something, that's not actually the real Rothschild family crest. But let's get to the actual evidence. I mean, in the files themselves, this email from February 28th, 2016, it's from Jeffrey Epstein to Peter Thiel. And the first line is, as you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. To me, that is like the smoking gun. I mean, I guess you should probably read like the rest of the context here. But we have even a second smoking gun on this same exact subject that RT somehow discovered in the Epstein files, which is this right here. For work specifically related to outstanding matters between Edmund de Rothschild Holding and the United States, $25 million. And that's under Article 2, fees and expenses in consideration for the work the Rothschild Group shall pay the following to STC. Now, STC is Southern Trust Company, a Virgin Islands corporation. This is like to Jeffrey Epstein. So apparently that's something he controls, I believe. Yeah, I mean, you can read the whole thing, but RT sums it up here. The Rothschilds hand Epstein $25 million as their U.S. rep. And, you know, that's just one transaction we've discovered. I mean, most people could do quite a bit with 25 million. But, you know, with how Epstein's operating, this is like a major money funnel that's keeping him financing all of this debauchery that he's participating in. And I mean, I'm fairly confident that if the Rothschilds are financing him 25 million, they're well aware of his lifestyle, everything he's doing. They most likely practice the same lifestyle themselves. And by that, I mean consumption of human flesh, human sacrifice, pedophilia, child rape, murder. So we have the smoking gun. And here's an image of Adrian de Rothschild. Now let's see, who was his, like, I'm not sure, he had one, I think his main contact was like a female Rothschild, like a French one. But this is Adrian de Rothschild, director of Edmund de Rothschild Bank, payer of $25 million to Jeffrey Epstein into the bank account named bail. No judicial proceedings, no police investigation of her. Let us not forget that Epstein was merely an agent claiming to represent the Rothschilds. And so you see her here in full Masonic garb. Like, I just found this tweet just before this video started. I'm always finding more evidence to support these claims in these videos. And, you know, typically all the evidence that I find only makes the case stronger and stronger when the case was already strong to begin with. So, like my t-shirt says, you see my t-shirt today? Conspiracy theorists, dozens of wins, experts, 0. So if you guys watched my Charlie Ward video, I sort of broke the story a little bit on my channel for the first time about JERKYGATE, which is the Pizzagate of 2026. The fact that Epstein and his cohorts talked about beef jerky in all these emails extensively in a very concerning way that really sounded like they're talking about some form of human flesh that is intended for consumption. So it's pretty grisly, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to get into this for too long because I did kind of talk about it briefly with Charlie. And we played the clip of the Epstein niece talking about the cult of Baal. Now, she didn't talk about cannibalism specifically. But I do want to play... Actually, I have 2 clips to play related to Epstein. And the first is the testimony of Lex Wexner confirming that Epstein was a front for the Rothschild family. So we have, you know, both those emails as well as this here. So let's let him speak for it and hear his lawyer tell him to shut up or he's going to kill him, which you don't usually hear a lawyer whispering that on a hot mic, but here it is.
Done personal work for the Rothschild family in France. Well, specifically, I talked to Elie de Rothschild, and so I mentioned that earlier. So he represented their whole family, so there had been a whole bunch of people. I mean, most of them I never would have met, but I knew Elie. He would say, like, I'm providing financial advice to the founders of Google. I'm providing financial advice to Jeff Bezos. Answer the question. Okay.
So there you have it. Elie de Rothschild, who was in the picture that I just showed. That's Adrian de Rothschild, and director of Edmund de Rothschild Banks. I mean, there's not just 1 or 2 Rothschilds. There's a big family. And I think I've heard multiple times that Epstein was in contact with that Elie de Rothschild, was like his Rothschild point man. So quite damning. And, you know, it demands investigation into the Rothschilds, which is, you know, as everyone knows, the most powerful Jewish banking family. And who is qualified to do such an investigation that is not compromised by the same parties is a big question. So I have one other clip to play related to JERKYGATE. It's like almost like 2 weeks old now, but, you know, I haven't really played this on my own channel. And so I really want everyone to see this, to understand why JERKYGATE is important. And I think it needs to become a thing, like the way Pizzagate became a thing. I was actually glad to see Alex Jones talking about and using the terminology JERKYGATE, because it's like, it's really one of the most far out things, you know, to say that these elites are actually consuming human flesh, even living on a diet of human flesh, which is just, I didn't even believe actually until I saw this clip I'm about to play. And actually this clip comes from a whole 40-minute video from 𝕊𝖚𝖚𝑑, who is most well known for streaming World of Warcraft. And apparently now he's getting more into political commentary. He has 4 million subscribers on YouTube. And so I'm not sure I'm going to play this whole clip. I think it's 4 minutes long. But this was kind of like the breakout video that he made that I saw, that I became aware of JERKYGATE. And I believe he was the first one to really be talking a lot about the jerky mentions in this email. Like I said before, you know, these are 3 million emails. And if you don't know the keywords to look for, it can be very hard to find the important tidbits that aren't just like restaurant and like play reservations. So apparently, you know, if you search for the word jerky is where you find some pretty interesting stuff. So I'm going to start playing some of this clip, and I may cut it off midway through, but this is 𝕯𝖚𝖚 breaking the news about the JERKYGATE.
People going crazy think they found a code word for human meat? Wait, what? Hope you are feeling better. Did we analyze the jerky? Why didn't we get jerky this week? I also added more to the jerky and ginger lemongrass. Thank you so much. Super cool. Beef jerky, delicious. Jojo is here and we'll walk the jerky over to Jeffrey. We'll walk the jerky over to Jeffrey. Why would jerky walk around? Why would it do that? Delicious lunch, beef jerky. Steve and I are very grateful above all for your friendship. Some of these emails are so wholesome, aren't they? It's too bad they eat kids. A small insulated bag would be fine. I don't remember checking it. No need for crazy amounts of ice. One should do. There is one bag of beef jerky in the fridge. Please get it. Also, Blank has more at her place. Please get it from her as well. I suppose it needs to be in a cold, insulated bag. Just wanted to touch base about jerky. JE said he was going to start eating regular food again, so he might be eating less jerky. He said he has 6 bags of it in a downstairs freezer. Why would you freeze jerky? Steve needs a 6 to 8 ounce portion of jerky. I gave you all the jerky we had, and it lasted only half the amount of time it was meant to. I felt like it was more important for you to have the jerky to eat during my time off. My plan is to make a batch before I leave for LSJ, and some of that will go to Steve, and the rest will go to you at LSJ when I arrive. Little St. James Island. That's what LSJ must mean. So logically, that means that they were doing this off of the island. Steve Hansen is sending jerky to your attention overnight. I believe it should be enough to get him through. Jeffrey Epstein is asking to bring him more jerky. I'm flying in on Friday. I will bring jerky. Is there a time I could come say hi and drop off the beef jerky? And that's from Jeffrey Epstein. Francis has time to come tomorrow. Show me how to make it. Jerky class anyone. He will bring you to taste his new jerky recipe from the restaurant. He sends a warm hello. He's working at a restaurant called guys, the restaurant's called Cannibal and Cooks. Wait for it, beef jerky and steak. Can Blank make some jerky? I think we should landscape all around the house to use the water if possible, if the main house is not enough. Are there any recorded image?
All right, I think you get the point there. I mean, it's pretty damning evidence. It doesn't say exactly what jerky is, but it's clearly not just beef jerky, because there's parts in those emails where it said the jerky's in the refrigerator, and like the whole point of beef jerky is like you don't refrigerate it, I think, unless you're trying to like really do long-term storage. Sounds like they're consuming it fast enough that they don't need that long-term of storage. So yeah, it's pretty much bad. It goes from bad to worse than anyone thought, like very rapidly. And this is like the dentist room in Jeffrey Epstein's New York apartment with these really creepy, like paper mache faces all over the walls. I would even say they look like, some of them like look extremely like Jewish faces, like with the way the nose is. And a lot of people are commenting that one of these even looks a lot like Howard 𝖏𝖚𝖚𝑘. I think that one, which is his next door neighbor. So more on Howard 𝖏𝖚𝑘 to come here, but like, who are these different masks and what do they represent? Because they're all different, and you know, they could, I think this is the one people say look like Howard 𝖏𝖏𝑘. This one looks like Hitler without any hair, and you know, this one just looks extremely Jewish. So you know, imagine being a child, like being tortured, having your teeth ripped out in this chair surrounded by these creepy paper mache masks, having your teeth ripped out so you can't bite anyone, like when you're getting raped later. It's like beyond fucked up. So, you know, people are demanding that something be done about this. And in the US, we haven't seen really any arrests yet. And I thought this tweet was pretty telling, saying, names mentioned in the Epstein files with emojis showing their ethnicity. And of course, you know, all of these are Jews. A lot of these are very prominent people. Lex Wexner, Ghislaine Maxwell, Alan Dershowitz, Woody Allen, Noam Chomsky. I'm not going to go through the whole list. The last one on the list here is Prince Andrew, happens to be Christian, and it says, guess who got arrested? Ooh. From a quick look at this, it was clearly a Russian operation. That's being sarcastic. So yeah, Prince Andrew was arrested, which is a pretty big deal, you know, in the truth movement and in royal affairs, stripped of his royal titles, arrested on something like inappropriate behavior, like in office. So wasn't necessarily arrested on rape or murder or anything like that. But we'll see what happens with that. And I think there was a second high-profile arrest in the UK as well. There have been a lot more resignations all over the world than arrests so far. Those resignations are obviously anticipating legal problems or blowback on the companies that they represent. But it's pretty abysmal, pretty pathetic that we haven't had arrests so far in the US. Now, I do think that we are working up to arrests. I think arrests may have already happened in secret. I think there may be people wearing latex masks, continuing the persona of people who are no longer with us due to such arrests. But on the surface level, like, it's really not looking so hot for the Trump administration and for Pam Bondi. And this image shows 4 of the most prominent Jews that are influencing the Trump administration. I believe that's Steve Miller, Howard Lutnick, Miriam Andelson, and the envoy to Israel. I have not committed his name to memory quite yet. Oh wait, I have it right here. Steve Witkoff. So I'm thinking, you know, based on everything in these Epstein emails, like, we may need to like reevaluate, like just do like a reassessment of the Jews that are actually in this administration or the donors, and, you know, strip off their protections. Because it's like, why? It's like, are Jews like immune to arrest for pedophilia and rape charges? Like, I know we're not in like the Middle Ages anymore, but like when we have all this evidence, some heads need to roll, like whether they're Jewish or Christian or whatnot, or powerful or in power. Heads need to roll, and arrests need to be made in conjunction with these Epstein emails. And people are really running out of patience. I'd say this is one of the main things that is driving desertion in the MAGA ranks from this administration, is a perceived lack of action with regards to these Epstein files. But, you know, I am still holding faith that there may be a master plan at work, that a plan to like reveal these arrests in some kind of a dramatic fashion in the future for everyone, Jews and Christians alike, that were committing crimes against children and participating in this Epstein scandal. So Iran seems to be understanding what is really going on here. And like, they had some dramatic protests burning effigies of Baal last week that, you know, I have a feeling that this may have had some Western involvement. Like, just the way they put together some of these images and statues of Baal and the Photoshop that was done here, it looks like this could have been like a Western marketing firm. Like, it just doesn't scream like this was like origin Arabic to me. So there's some just really uncanny, strange stuff going on that you've never seen before. Like, Baal is going mainstream. I mean, I'm not going to play the clip in this video, but in the Charlie video, I played the clip of Epstein's niece talking about, you know, they actually are in the cult of Baal, doing, you know, multi-generational satanic ritual abuse. In my previous video, I talked about Epstein's bank account named Baal. And I don't know if Iranians are like really paying attention to this, like more than Americans, but these anti-Baal protests in Iran are just crazy to see. You know, they're associating Baal with Israel, like putting pictures of Netanyahu, Epstein, and Donald Trump like all around the base of these effigies that they burn in defiance of the Baalism that they perceive. I hope everyone is like watching the video that's looking at this, because I really want them to look at this picture of the Baal Moloch with the puppet strings going down to Trump, Netanyahu, Mohammed bin Salman, and Epstein, and like it's just crazy. Like who did this Photoshop? I would really like to know, with like the Illuminati eyes, the American, British, Israeli, and gay flags, down with the USA, down with Israel, pedophiles and killers are the devil. I'm like, why can't we have this protest in America, like minus Donald Trump on there and maybe Mohammed bin Salman? I'm not sure how responsible he would be, but for Netanyahu and Epstein for sure. It's, I mean, is this like the CIA putting this together and trying to like, you know, stab Trump in the back here and Trump's biggest allies? It's just, we've never seen like a Baal protest before, so it's pretty exciting. But I would love to see this in the USA, focused on like who is really the culprits here. And you even have on this little obelisk to the right, you know, it's anti-Horus, anti-Freemasonry, a second anti-Horus and anti-Jewish, and then another horse at the top. It's like, who put this together? It's like the craziest like mishmash of conspiracy protests. But then I saw this meme on Twitter that I quite liked that was, so what if we're part of an ancient blood cult that sacrifices children? The Tao is up. So I'm sure all of you guys saw Pam Bondi being questioned by Congress when her response to, you know, questions about why no one's been arrested for Epstein was that the Dow was up to 50,000 and now it's actually fallen back down. We've erased all our gains from 2026 so far. So the stock market is having a little bit of a sputter, a little bit struggling, as is crypto. Metals are recovering a bit. But that is the general state of Epstein, and we'll see if Trump says anything in the speech tonight, but I would not hold my breath. So before we go on to the other subjects like the glyphosate and Howard Lutnick, I'm going to do a quick little promo for dsmp.io. You see here a little thumbnail of our Cult of Baal artwork, which is really the one that you're going to want to understand these Baal protests taking place in Iran, to understand the cult that Epstein was a part of, and many, many others. You know, when I made this artwork, I thought I was coming up with the term Cult of Baal, but actually, I guess this is really what they call themselves at the highest level. Like, you know, they don't consider themselves Satanists. I really don't think they consider themselves Luciferians. I think the Satanists call themselves sometimes Luciferians, as sort of like a euphemism, or to try to like make themselves feel better about what they actually do. But I don't think that they're actually Luciferians. I think, you know, most specifically they're Satanists, and most technically they are Baal worshippers practicing this ancient, like Epstein's niece said, fertility cult that most people think has been eradicated yet still exists. So the Cult of Baal map goes through that whole timeline from prehistory to, you know, it really is more focused on the ancient part of that timeline and how this belief system perpetuated itself through secrecy, secret societies, and such throughout the ages. And we have it in two different colorways as poster. This is the second colorway, the gray, blue, and red. And we have a third colorway that's only as a tapestry, and a mini poster that comes with the Cult of Baal packet. So, I mean, we are right on the money with this one, calling it Cult of Baal since 2018. It's all coming out that we were right about most of the assertions on this diagram. Now, some of our other newest artworks you can find on dsmp.io are the Sovereignty Certificate, which you see here. We have begun shipping these. The pre-order time is over. It's actually for sale now. And we had a little bit of a setback when the bulk prints came in with the color a little bit off. I was just found out I will be getting a refund for that, and we'll be getting them reprinted. But in the meantime, we're selling them as made-on-demand posters, which always turn out good. And hopefully the bulk ones will turn out good eventually. And once we get the bulk ones in, it will come with the packet of like the Sovereignty Certificates compendium. But as made on demand, since those don't ship from headquarters, those will not come with a packet until we get the bulk ones in. And this is the new D.S.M.P in the white colorway. I really love this diagram. It's like the eagle with the fasces and a summarization of the Q web. We've also been really focused on marketing for the Maestro Map lately, which is the whole Q plane essentially. I consider this the extension of the Q web. You guys all remember the Q web that ended at the end of 2017, that executive order about human rights abuse. The Maestro Map basically takes up where the Q web left off and continues that timeline through Trump's entire term 1, the main accomplishments in term 1, through the Biden administration, which I believe was a pantomime, the necessity of that and the rationale, and then through the expected plan for term 2, which I have to say is not going exactly according to plan. But you know, God works in mysterious ways, and some of these aspects are going to plan, and we'll see in 3 years like how far into the future we can get, how much declassified technology we can get exposed, and how far AI will advance to really change our civilization for the better. And our other newest one is the seed oil map, which you see here, all about seed oils and avoiding seed oils and getting healthy. So before we move on, we'll play this 1-minute promo covering the rest of the products we offer at dsmp.io.
Truth seekers, are you ready to uncover the secrets they don't want you to know? At dsmp.io, we're not just a store. We're a portal to the unknown, prints and posters that unveil hidden truths, from ancient mysteries to modern cover-ups. Fill your space with tapestries woven with cosmic secrets. Tap into the energy of hand-selected crystals to awaken your mind. Explore exclusive packets packed with forbidden knowledge. Cleanse your body and spirit with products designed to strip away the toxins of a corrupted world. In the chaos of today, we give you the tools to stay sharp and to stay awakened. This is more than shopping. This is a movement. Step through the portal. Discover the truth. dsmp.io. Truth disguised as art.
So that is dsmp.io. And just a little internal memo. I know I've been talking about we're going to do a relaunch of the website for quite a long time. Well, part of the reason why I haven't done more videos lately is because that has been quite a source of stress for me. And at this point, I unfortunately have to announce that that has all fallen through. I lost trust in the company I was working with. And I actually think they were trying to like do like a long con, like a long scam on me and essentially ruin dsmp.io and give us a website that would break when it was publicly active. And so therefore that project has been aborted. And I will be slowly trying to implement some of the graphics and changes that were going to be on the new site, on the current site, in a way that will not break the site. And so that was unfortunately a year-long setback, and I could go into a lot more detail. I'm considering making a video about it to let you guys know exactly what happened. But at the same time, I'm like, I think we've wasted enough time on it, and we just need to move on and keep making new products, keep improving the site incrementally instead of work. It's like my first attempt to work with a professional marketing agency ended in complete and utter disaster, and took 9 months when it was supposed to take like 3 weeks to end up having to throw all the work in the bin. And so that was unfortunate, but I'm very grateful to have that marketing agency out of my life at this point. And you know, it's basically a one-man show, me and Adam, who helps me ship orders. And you know, it's hard to find people you can trust when you're in this type of industry. And I don't want to go into too much detail in this video, but that company I hired, I had found them through them reaching out to me on D.S.M.P's information email. And so not a good way to find a company to have like full access to all your like website. and, you know, have your business be reliant on them. It's like, that's how you find a scammer, essentially. I think that's actually what I found. And so I'll debate if I want to do a full video on that. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to hear the full story of how this company wasted a year of my time and almost ran D.S.M.P into the ground. But we're back, and we're not going to let the deep state take us down. I don't know if they were deep state or incompetent or what, or intelligence operation, but we have cut them out and gotten a partial refund on what we had paid them. And so quite unfortunate, but we're moving on and moving up. So next up here in the slideshow, oh, well, by the way, dsmp.io, despite the setback with the website, everything is still fully operational. It's just all the website I made and not the glitzy one, the fancy, super professional looking one that they made that was likely going to break. But we have all the new artworks, and we're always launching new products as well. We have some new t-shirts, and I'm actually working on a new, it's called gallery section. It's essentially hand-painted originals, which will include my ghost work, as well as we're creating D.S.M.P hand-painted originals. They'll be one of a kinds. And so look forward to that in a couple of weeks. I'm actually working on it. We have some of like the finished ones right over here, and some are still in progress. I've been using actually this table to do painting for the first time in a very long time. And so it's been kind of fun. It's like, I think something in my brain like broke after the experience with that marketing agency and trying to relaunch the website. Like I couldn't take any more digital madness at the time. And so I kind of switched to doing like some handwork, which has been very beneficial to my psyche. And I really like the results. And so always expanding into new categories at D.S.M.P. So make sure you check out all the different sections, dsmp.io, to support the new Templars. Now, everyone was quite excited about this tweet that I'm going to talk about from Donald Trump. This is sort of like a summary meme saying, breaking news, Trump says that the US will release files related to aliens and UFOs. So especially here at D.S.M.P, we're into conspiracies, and even more so into aliens and extraterrestrials, as well as secret space programs and classified technologies, because we want to see these technologies declassified to release essentially free energy to society, break the energy monopolies, break the robber barons, and the control of the Rothschild family ultimately is like really what this comes down to. And so there's a lot of things converging to a head at once here. And, you know, it's like some people say that the Epstein file, or the talking about these aliens is a distraction from the Epstein files. But I would contend that maybe there was a deeper connection here than most people would imagine. And, you know, one potential there is that Epstein and his cohorts are actually not human. Now, I don't think we're too close to Trump announcing that publicly, but that's definitely one possibility. And, you know, the other possibility is ultimately bringing down the Rothschild family, which will break the control of these big families over these energy industries. And then we can actually have the release of some of these technologies that have been kept classified for national defense reasons, which is really defense of these elite bloodlines controlling these industries. So I want to read Trump's actual tweet about these aliens, because I think the way he worded it is quite telling. And I even would say that with the way he worded this is not just like asking the Pentagon to release files on aliens, but it's very much, in my eyes, the first real disclosure of aliens by a US president, just in the way that he's formed this tweet. So, I mean, that is beyond huge, you know. It's like, it's not like he came out on a podium and like said, yes, aliens exist, they're real. But if you really read into this tweet, like what he's saying here is tantamount to saying, yes, like they are real, and we have information and files on them. So let's read it, see exactly what he says, so I'm not butchering it and drawing my own references that I want to read that aren't actually there. So Real Donald Trump tweeted on Truth Social, based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to aliens and extraterrestrial life. Unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. And this is actually a screen cap of the White House Twitter account reposting the message in full with a screenshot of the original message. And so, like I said, he's like, he really covers it all here. He's saying releasing government files related to aliens and extraterrestrial life. I mean, if the government has files on aliens, that must mean aliens exist, right? I mean, is it too much of a stretch here? So I think that's a huge deal. Then again, like, is it going to show up like the Epstein files with everything blacked out? There's been a funny image going around online of, like the sky over some nondescript city, and there's like a big, like, black square in the sky. It's like that's how the files will be released, similar to the Epstein files. But, I think this is a step in the right direction, at least. And, but like with a lot of things, there's powerful lobbying forces, which we're going to talk about in a minute here. A lot of these lobbying forces that don't want these advanced technologies released, because that's how they maintain their power and their revenue streams. And so there will definitely be resistance. But from the sounds of Trump's tweet, it's like this is the direction that him and his administration want to go in, and get this information out there, get these technologies released eventually. That was really my hope from the beginning, all the way back to that quote from his first inauguration saying, we're at the birth of a new millennium, unlocking the mysteries of space and the relief from the miseries of disease and the technologies of tomorrow. It's like, we should have these things available to us if they've been developed by our secret space programs with our tax money. So it's not going to be an easy process, but at least he's starting to get the ball rolling and expressing interest in going in this direction. And, this connects to JERKYGATE too, and the release of the 6,000 patents that have been classified for national security. So it's all stacking up. I mean, it's a tall order for just the next 3 years. He's encountering so much resistance, which we'll talk about more of that in these next couple subjects, that progress seems to be quite slow. But, little by little, progress is being made. And speaking of slow progress, or backtracking, or reneging, let's talk about the executive order on glyphosate. And now this is one where I fairly quickly came to the conclusion that this was most likely a 5D chess move. However, it doesn't thrill me. And I feel like as the truthers and the anons, like, we're too often having to justify some of these actions as 5D chess. And now, while he is playing 5D chess, it's like you have to consider that, like, normies can only comprehend checkers. And so, like, the more 5D chess moves like this that come out, it's like the more likely he is going to lose these midterms. And at the same time, they're asking for money for the midterms, like acting like the midterms are important, which they are, unless they have some plan to cancel the midterms. But anons in this truth community have been anticipating canceled elections over and over and over, like for the past 6 to 8 years, and they never seem to get canceled. The elections always happen on schedule. Whether they're honest elections or not, it's debatable. But this one related to the glyphosate EO and promoting the national defense by ensuring an adequate supply of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate-based herbicides from February 18th, like I said, has lost the support of a big portion of the MAHA, Make America Healthy Again base. And, a lot of people that are maybe like moderates or independents that are more environmentally concerned, like, this has really pissed them off. And, like, I'm kind of concerned for the long-term viability of this administration if it's going to be bowing to like lobbyists from Bayer, which is like a German chemical company, and Monsanto is like the ones who are like making these like glyphosate chemicals that are great at herbicide effects, but unfortunately they cause cancer. And maybe one of the big reasons, I mean, Kennedy has even said that glyphosate may be one of the big reasons for chronic disease in this country. And now we're promoting it and telling people to use it. Now you'd have to read the whole order to really understand it. But essentially, these chemicals have been being produced, I think, in China. And this executive order is saying that we need to produce them in America to ensure the adequate supply of them, that China can't use them as like leverage in a military confrontation. So on a base level, like that's a good thing, that it's like we need to be independent for essential chemicals that we need to run our country and supply food. It has also been said that you can't just cold turkey stop using these chemicals and maintain the same output for the food supply. So it's something we need to wean off of slowly. And so I guess, I would say I'm in support of domestic production of essential chemicals, but I think there should be a plan to phase them out ultimately. And maybe that's something they're working on. And so, this didn't get me as riled up as some other people. My sort of 5D explanation of this was as follows. Like, let me explain why the glyphosate is a 5D chess. NPCs thrive on glyphosate, fluoride, and red 40, among other toxic food additives. Libtards will oppose anything that Trump endorses. The average libtard NPC does not even know what glyphosate is and would consider it a baseless conspiracy theory if you told them that it was bad for their health. However, if Trump endorses it and they catch wind that there's some controversy there, poof, all of a sudden they become an anti-chemical agra warrior. Savvy Mahas will already be opposed to this executive order, so all of a sudden you have unity on the issue of phasing out glyphosate entirely. Trump is battling powerful forces in the deep state in the form of big pharma and big agra and big chemical by appearing to take their side temporarily, only to then expose them to the public, shift public support, and deal them a death blow to their decades-old poisoning schemes. So I also have this screenshot from an article from CNBC in which, let's see, they're saying, but Kennedy Maha coalition that supported Trump in 2024 presidential election hates glyphosate, which has been alleged to cause cancer in myriad lawsuits. So that's essentially showing you right there, the 5D chess, that Trump's executive order on glyphosate just got the entire mainstream media to admit that glyphosate causes cancer. And you think this is not 5D chess? That was one article of many. Just by these articles addressing the controversy and saying, well, Maha thinks that glyphosate causes cancer. These are leftist-leaning articles criticizing Trump by saying that glyphosate is suspected of causing cancer. So this could definitely, it has potential to wake up some sleepers on this issue. And it's making that connection between glyphosate and cancer in the mainstream leftist media. And so, I'm kind of having a little bit of fun with this. Like, I did share this image of Trump, like, pouring glyphosate on the country. But, like, I don't think it's really, like, this terrible or this dramatic. It's not good on the surface, but you have to see, like, the effect that this is having by having this story being reported in the mainstream media. And at the end of the day, it's like he's not increasing the use of it. We've already been being poisoned by glyphosate for decades now. And so, yeah, I would prefer if he was like scaling it back, if RFK was kind of doing what he said he would do. But at the same time, it's like he hasn't really changed anything other than decreasing reliance on Chinese chemicals. And some people have even suggested that the Chinese glyphosate was extra toxic because of other additives in it that were making it even more carcinogenic than normal glyphosate would have been. And is there also potential we could possibly tweak the formula or the chemical composition of glyphosate so that it could still have its beneficial herbicidal effects but not be carcinogenic? That's another possibility. Sometimes it's only the difference of one or two little molecular connections in the chemical composition that can be the difference between a terrible carcinogen and something that's much more benign. Now, at the same time, like, I'm not completely justifying this. Like, even more evidence has been coming out today that, you know, this Bayer lobby has played a large role in this happening. And so, no, it's not good to see chemical lobbyists altering the MAGA agenda. And, you know, I think something similar has happened on the artificial food dye front as well, which was also announced last week that the RFK's FDA is, or I don't know if it's the FDA or the whole, I mean, RFK is in charge of all those departments, from the CDC to the FDA. He's the Director of Health and Human Services, the HHS. So essentially, HHS or FDA is backing down on the artificial food dye ban and changing it to more of like a labeling, changing like the labeling requirements. So I'm not a fan of that either. You know, I don't think we should have poisons, even if there's a label or like a warning on it. I don't think we should have poisons in the food supply, even if people want to eat it. It's like, we need to force these motherfuckers to like stop being fat asses. Like, I'm sorry, but it's like, if we give people the option, like they're gonna like be fat asses and die of cancer. So it's like, to be really a good leader in this country, we need to have these options like not be available. And it's like, they do, of course, these companies use deceptive marketing. And like, the whole point of these colors is to catch your eye and draw you in and like make you excited to eat these things, which is, you know, and then they're carcinogenic and toxic. So it's very deceptive. So yeah, like I've drunk the Roundup essentially. It's just a joke. So moving on to the final main subject here. Last Thursday, I think it was, the U.S. Supreme Court officially blocked Trump's sweeping tariffs in a 6-3 ruling. And like I said in the beginning, the very next day, he implemented global tariffs of 10%, and the following morning raised those to 15%. Now, I have not actually read the Supreme Court's ruling on this, but from what I have heard and all the different shows that I listen to, the way Trump did the tariffs the first time was like the gentle way of doing them that was a little more diplomatic. And the legalities that he's using to implement these new 10% tariffs and 50% tariffs are like the playing hardball way of doing it. Now, will it be possible for the Supreme Court to rule against his alternate route of tariffs that he's using? Yes, but I think this first ruling took them, you know, nearly a year for them to, you know, have it on the docket and make a decision here. And so it could be another whole year before this next round of tariffs is taken out by the Supreme Court. And so who knows what could happen by then. But so the concern here now is that 𝕯𝖚𝖚 is profiteering through his sons and his company, Cantor Fitzgerald, on this tariff decision, almost as if he planned to have Trump put these tariffs in place and was betting against them from the beginning, which is very deceitful. And like I said, Twitter has been just blowing up over the past, since last Thursday, with allegations of 𝕯𝖚𝖚 being corrupt, needing to be investigated, needing to be fired from the administration. So I'm going to briefly read one of the tweets here about how people are saying that this scam actually worked, because I don't completely understand like how this would be legal or even possible. But here it is. Now a brand new scheme has surfaced involving Cantor Fitzgerald, run by multiple of his sons. The firm has been buying the rights to U.S. tariff refunds at massive discounts. Here's how the scam works. 1. U.S. companies paid billions in tariffs that were later ruled illegal. Now, see, that's what I'm kind of like questioning here, is because like I thought the way these tariffs were working was that the foreign companies were paying the tariffs to the US government to import the products. And so I'm a little confused here on some of these aspects, but let's just go with it. 2, Cantor Fitzgerald approaches these companies and offers immediate cash, 25 cents for every dollar that they are owed. 3, companies take that money and avoid waiting years for litigation and bureaucracy. 4, when refunds are issued, Cantor collects the full dollar. So that, I mean, that kind of makes sense to me, but at the same time, I'm like, were these US companies or the foreign companies that were even paying these tariffs? I'm losing my daylight lighting, and like my lighting's getting worse and worse as this video goes on. So, it's worth okay, wait. They bought claims at 25 cents on the dollar, and after the Supreme Court's ruling, those claims could be worth 80 to 90 cents. It's worth noting that 𝖁𝖚𝖘 also literally helped architect the tariff regime. He pushed Trump to implement it, likely knowing that it would collapse and create this exact arbitrage opportunity. The potential payout is in the billions. This is insider level extraction hiding in plain sight. So yes, he's caused quite a bit of controversy. And if you go look at my X feed, you'll see like all these different posts I have reposted. I mean, I would love to trust this guy, but ever since the very beginning, just he looks like a little bit of greasy businessman. Like, I don't know. And the whole story about him dodging the Twin Towers on 9/11 and his whole firm dying in the towers while he was taking his daughter to school just doesn't look so good. But like, why would Trump make him the Commerce Secretary? So we'll see whatever comes about that. I mean, I thought that maybe the Trump administration or someone in an interview would have addressed it by now. It's Tuesday since this started becoming a controversy like last Friday. I haven't heard much of anything though. So we'll see if Trump ever addresses it or fires him, or what will happen with the tariff war. So this was the day after the tariffs, I think on Friday, when Drudge Report was saying Don puts a 15% tariff on the whole planet. And of course, now they're acting like he's the dictator, saying like, I can do anything I want. Warren's enemies will have infiltrated the Supreme Court. Well, yeah, I think that a lot of people are saying that the Supreme Court made this decision because of Chinese lobbying them somehow, or possibly bribery or blackmail, who knows. People have been saying that Justice Roberts was a major player in this whole pedophile ring for like 8 years now. So he's still like the Chief Justice, I think. But anyways, here is the shit hitting the fan in Puerto Vallarta on Sunday. I'm not sure how much more action there has been since then. I would not say that Mexico's like in an all-out civil war yet. I think this was like just kind of like dramatic optics, really, without maybe too much teeth behind it, considering like no tourists have even been taken hostage yet, considering EDC Mexico is like going off without a hitch. That's a giant music festival for people that don't know what EDC is. But yeah, like there's portions of Mexico that are completely unaffected by this, and I think the Mexican military is cleaning it up fairly rapidly. But you know, it's like it could get worse or it could get better. It's like we're not sure at this point, so we're keeping an eye on that situation. And now there's a fun little conspiracy that's also floating around Twitter that I first saw posted by an account called White Hat Grandpa. And I've been seeing a lot of other people repost this in more detail, like the same concept in more details and with specific numbers. But this was saying the supplier is dead, but the client list survived. So I'll just read this. And I mean, this is something I would say could be true. I don't have evidence that it is true. I would like it to be true. Well, let's just see what this says. When Mexican special forces took out El Mencho, they didn't just find guns and drugs. They found a laptop, another laptop. On it, a single encrypted file named clients. Inside, 211 names, the clients who ordered children and organs from the supplier. Hollywood actors, tech billionaires, Wall Street executives, and 17 sitting members of Congress. For 48 hours, the deep state tried to bury it. The CIA tried to claim jurisdiction. The FBI tried to seize the laptop. They failed. Trump's people got to it first. The file is now in the hands of military intelligence unit that is preparing the State of the Union address. This is the kill shot. The Epstein files were the blackmail network. The client list is the customer base. Arrests are not coming. They have already begun. Pay attention to who disappears this week. This is not politics. This is war. The snakes can't hide anymore. White hat grandpa. So could be true. It's like another laptop. We've had the Wiener laptop, the Biden laptop. It's crazy, like the Biden laptop was full of pedophilia and everyone knows it. Yep, Hunter Biden's like still doing podcasts on like major podcasts and he's still walking around free. There's just seems to be very little justice for the elite class in this country. And that's what everyone wants. That's what everyone's demanding. And so State of the Union tonight's probably getting started any time now. And just a couple other funny memes here towards the end. We're not going to vote our way out of this, showing the eyes wide shut ceremony. I really like this one. This comes to mind with a few people that I talk to, actually. When someone tries to give you advice, but you remember that they took the COVID shot, I would say that extends not just to advice, but even having opinion about Donald Trump or what's going on in the world. If you took the COVID shot, frankly, your opinion is invalidated by your decision. And lastly, I think that this is like a hand-drawn meme showing like my plan was to go from a straight line to start to finish, but God's plan has you going through, like a whole like Olympic obstacle course in order to get to the finish. And it says, sometimes God doesn't do things the way we think he should, but God has a perfect plan for your life. So those are the news for now. And, I was going to comment on a few cultural items, but considering that my lighting has ended and I'm getting tired, I think I'll save that for later. And I'll save for later the story of my experience with the marketing agency that was contracted to renovate deep state mapping project dsmp.io that turned into a complete disaster. But anyways, we'll be watching the State of the Union tonight, paying very close attention to any hidden comms, hopefully getting some kind of major announcements, maybe related to the Epstein files or arrests. Don't hold your breath. We're going to be getting a little more Erica Kirk action, which nobody's excited for. So either way, it should be interesting. Hopefully he can turn it around because, honestly, at this point, the midterms, if they happen, are not looking good for MAGA. Like if he loses the House or the Senate, he's going to get impeached and we can expect essentially no progress for the next 2 years. And so there was a lot hanging on these midterms. Even if he even retains House and Senate in the midterms, and he's on his last term, these last 2 years could be like unrestricted MAGA and, heavy hits, big hits coming into the deep state. But yeah, if he loses the House, we are stuck in gridlock for the rest of the 2 years, essentially. He may even be impeached, so we'll see. He really needs to, I think, tone down the 5D chess moves and like let a little more truth that this come to the surface. We need to rein in the media. I look at Drudge Report every day and it's just like horrific how anti-American the Drudge Report is. Like in the past week, at one point I was looking at different international news websites and I happened to go to a Chinese news site. I forget what it's called, like China Today or something. I forget the exact name of it. But like, wow, on the Chinese website, like all the articles were like pro China, like good news about China, like China's doing great, this and that about China. And it's like, I mean, I know that's communism, but at the same time, I don't think it's normal or natural to have all these liberal media outlets just be so fiercely anti like this American administration 24 hours a day. Especially Drudge Report is like the worst, and that's an aggregator. And it's just like, how about some propaganda to like make people actually like our country and like, you know, be optimistic, instead of perpetually having this like negative propaganda machine that's just like still running. And people even say the Q operation is controlling, like the New York Times and some of these big outlets, yet they still put out so much negativity. And most of it's completely unjustified. You know, it's like they could be explaining this executive order on glyphosate, like why it's necessary for whatever reason, and, you know, and saying it causes cancer, but like we needed to get over this hump until we really institute more regenerative farming in this country, which does take years to establish. But no, it's like they just always are running cover for the deep state. So I'd like to see a crackdown on that, crackdown on Epstein collaborators. But I am, you know, a lot of truth is coming to the surface. I have to say that. And we're coming into some powerful astrological times as well. We have a blood moon on March 3rd, a super worm blood moon, combined with a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. We have a big planetary alignment happening as well, I think, on the 28th. So we say it every year, but March Madness is coming up, as Q mentioned, and we'll see what happens. Could be some, I mean, we have already started seeing like even just the Prince Andrew arrest, and there was another minister or someone in the UK that got arrested. So we have two major Epstein arrests. They just happen to be in UK. I think they're coming in USA. Like I can feel that they're coming eventually. Like I put in the intro of this video, arrest Obama. It's like Obama, Hillary, 107 saying Brennan will be the first on the chopping block of that whole previous administration that is guilty of so many crimes against humanity and against children. And so I believe it's coming down the pipe, and we've had a lot of patience so far, and let's just see how this plays out. But keep our voices loud and keep being vocal about what we agree with and disagree with this administration, because I don't think we should just be in blind support. Oh yeah, glyphosate is great. That's great that we're doing it domestically. No, like we're going to keep it real. We're going to call Trump out if he gets influenced by these lobbyists a little bit too much. And we're going to demand the MAGA agenda be implemented as it was promised. So that is it for this one. One last time, please visit dsmp.io and buy the new posters, check out the new t-shirts, all the new products, the body products, the ASEA, the Avini Zeolites, the red light therapy. I'm obsessed with red light therapy. I could do a whole video on red light therapy. And let's see what happens in State of the Union. Maybe I'll be back later this week with some State of the Union decodes, or we'll do that next week. So that's it for this one, and we'll see you guys on the next video. New Templars.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the future of finance. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Hey, calm before the storm.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.